To record guitar through your Boss Katana amplifier, all you're going to need is one of these. In the back of your amplifier, you will see a USB input for a USB cable. Plug that in there. Then the other side into your computer, run it through your DAW, which is something I'll also show you how to do, and then you can record your guitar. What I've got next to me over here is the Boss Katana 50-watt electric guitar amplifier, and on my other side is the Boss Katana 1110B, the bass guitar amp. Every one of these Boss Katana amplifiers just needs that USB-B cable, this boxy side into the back of the amp, and then this into your computer. I'm just going to use my electric guitar amp to demonstrate how to connect everything up for this video, but just know that everything we do for this amplifier will be exactly the same for the 1110B and all the other variations of these amps. So step one, grab this boxy end of the cable and plug that into the back of your amplifier. Looking at the back of the amplifier, your USB input is going to be right there. Just need to plug in the boxy end and the other side into your computer. And while we're here, here's the bass guitar amplifier. There is your USB input. Plug that in, we're good to go. Because I decided to use a Mac as my main computer for content creation and music production, I've had to buy a bunch of adapters. So my cable is currently plugged into an adapter so I can plug it into the USB-C slot of the computer, but it's all connected, so we can now run through how to set everything up in your DAW. In the description, I'll link you tutorials that show you how to record music at home, which will just go into a more in-depth look at everything we're about to focus on right now. Step one is to create a project, which we can just title Katana Video. Click OK and it brings you to our workstation. You can add as many tracks as you'd like with this plus button here. We can just add one right now for electric guitar. There are two things that we need to do to get your amplifier and your computer to talk to each other. The first thing has something to do with your song setup settings. I'm going to go up here into song, and then under that I've got song setup. You can see here the shortcut is just command and then full stop, which brings you to this page here. You need to go over to audio I/O setup, which is your input versus output or recording device versus playback device settings. Because we haven't chosen the amplifier as my recording device, it will show that I have no audio device selected. What we need to do is drop down to the bottom left and choose preferences so that we can now change our playback and recording device. I'll keep my computer speakers as the playback device, but you could set up your headphones and audio interface. You could even run it through your Katana if you'd like. For my recording device, I do need to change that from no audio device to the Boss Katana. Now that we've chosen our recording device, if I jump back over to song setup, we should see the Katana is selected. The other thing that you might notice is these 4 inputs, which is the 4 inputs from your amplifier. Essentially, these are kind of the built-in microphones from the amp. Professionals will generally use a dynamic microphone like the SM57 and then some kind of condenser microphone together at the same time, both miking up and recording your amplifier. These inputs kind of simulate that. Input 1 and 2 is basically microphone 1 and 2 of your affected tones or your wet signal. Inputs 3 and 4 is your microphones 1 and 2 again, but this time you're recording your dry signal or your non-affected tones. To explain that further, inputs 1 and 2 will be used to record the sound that the amplifier is making, which will add distortion, reverb, delay, whatever effects you have from the amplifier, that will be recorded onto inputs 1 and 2, whereas inputs 3 and 4 is basically just recording the guitar itself, without the distortion, without the reverb, without the delay, so you can then later on, with amp sims and stuff through your DAW, you can then change the tone as you like it. Now these 4 inputs are half of the equation. They are connecting only to the Boss Katana. What we need to do is add inputs on the DAW side of things to make them talk to each other so that we can then start recording our guitar. All we need to do is add 1, 2, 3, 4 mono inputs and then 2 stereo inputs. Now this is a perfect representation of the difference between the two. As you can see here with my mono input, I'm connecting 1 and 1, 2 and 2, 3 and 3, 4 and 4. If I was to record with these mono inputs, I'm going to have either microphone 1 or 2 by itself recording either the affected tone or non-affected tone. With my stereo inputs, you can see here, especially when I move this one over to 3 and 4, we have input 5 from the DAW connecting into inputs 1 and 2 from the Katana, and then input 6 of the DAW connecting to 3 and 4 of the amp. Now what this means is if I've selected input 5 on the DAW's end, I'll be recording with both input 1 and 2 at the same time. And again for input 6, I'll be recording both inputs 3 and 4 from the amplifier at the same time. These stereo inputs will only work if I have a stereo track. The monos will only work if I have a mono track. Because this electric guitar track here is a mono track, when I click OK, and then come up here, I can only choose inputs 1, 2, 3, or 4. If I do another track and select it as format stereo, I can then go input 5 or input 6, which shows you I've got input 1 and 2 together or 3 and 4 together recording at the same time. If I choose that, enable my track to be recorded, and then start recording, you can see here I have got these 2 lines of audio there, one on top and one on the bottom. if I do the exact same thing, but I need to choose, we'll go input 1 here, get that ready to record, start recording there, you can see I've got just the one line in the middle. So that's the difference between stereo and mono. For the sake of the video, we'll just use the track that I made at the beginning of this section, so the mono track, and we will select input 1. So simulated microphone 1. All we have left to do is enable the track for recording, which is what that button does, and then once I plug my guitar in, we can start recording some stuff. Got my Les Paul, which I hope is in tune. Amplifier is set to the rock settings that I made in a video that I'll also link in the description. I've got a bunch of videos on both of the Katana amplifiers, which I'll check out if you're interested. Final check to make sure everything is good. All systems are a go. I can see my green little indicator there telling me I've got sound coming in. And if I turn up my computer speakers, my playback device is working, my recording device is working, and I've got this in standby. Just because I don't need to double up on that, and I want to hear this. So, click record, and record whatever that riff is that I just came up with. I hope that this video was helpful and that everything made sense. If it did, please like, subscribe, comment, let me know everything. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you later. Again, I'll link some videos in the description below looking at the amplifiers and how to record music at home.